You're listening to the Career Jump podcast. Insights, interviews, and success stories to inspire and give you the edge when you make your next career jump. Hosted by your career concierge, Andrew McCaskill.
So a very warm welcome back to the Executive Career Jump podcast. I'm your host and career concierge today, Andrew McCaskill, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Rachel Steele. How are you doing, Rachel?
Yeah, very good, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
No, I really appreciate you taking the time. So obviously I'm aware you're involved with all things talent on both sides of the hiring equation, but tell us a little bit more about what you do and your interests and how you currently work within the talent ecosystem.
Yeah, so I run my own business and I do a mix of recruitment and coaching. My specialist area is marketing and communications, so that does work quite broadly, but generally, and so I'll work at all levels from graduate through to director level within that space. And I also kind of consult with the people. I think that it's the consulting part of what I do for my clients, which is probably really starting to become even more important. I think the way that the market is at the moment and the changes that are happening to the way that people hire.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been an interesting 12 months, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So what kind of things are you helping people with then? Tell us a little bit more about the day-to-day involved with that.
So I guess the kind of things that I help with are when a client is needing to hire. So when somebody's looking to make a hire, I think there's obviously the standard replacement type of hires, but there's also the hires where perhaps they're growing and they haven't hired this type of role before. And that tends to be where a recruiter can really add value. So it's around helping them to shape the role using experience that I've gained from hiring across, different companies and different markets to shape what the job role is that they need, and then to find the person that can do that role brilliantly. So on the recruitment side, that's the kind of work that I tend to do. I also love team building. So it's around working long term with clients, building teams, hopefully knowing everybody on that team so that you have quite a full picture of the types of talents and personalities that are on the team, so that you can fill gaps and just have quite an instinctive recognition of added value that you see in potential new hires as well.
Yeah, no, very important. And important that it's not just a team of mini-me's in the image of the leader as well. And we get some diversity of thought in there, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's quite an interesting theme at the moment, the diversity theme, because we've always, as recruiters, cultural fit has been a long-standing thing that people are like, you need to understand the cultural fit. And interestingly, it's still a thing, but interestingly now, what we're doing as recruiters is working with clients to help them understand diversity and how to be brave in attracting diverse people for their team, not just hiring in their own image or hiring a like for like as somebody that they had before, but really thinking not only for the need to be inclusive and bringing people in from different backgrounds, but also in terms of inspiration and being an innovative business, because things are moving so fast at the moment. You really need to be innovating and bringing in people perhaps from slightly different backgrounds or with different talents might help you to do something that your competition isn't doing, blended with the expertise you have in your business. So I think that's also, it's an
Brilliant
interesting
point.
theme. Yeah.
The more culture add than culture fit.
Yeah, that's a nice phrase. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Good. I get it. And tell us about your career coaching.
On the career coaching side, I worked for a good number of years as a recruiter, purely as a recruiter, and people, there's people who you recognize as soon as you meet them, that they're who you're looking for your client. And it's always an exciting moment for both sides and a lovely journey to go on with that person to help them secure their dream job. And that's always, the thrill of recruitment. And then there's a huge number of people that you might meet who aren't right for that particular job, but they're brilliant in their own way. They're just, they're just not right for the job that you're hiring. So being able to help people who perhaps don't match your particular client and job is something that was instilled in me when I worked for a boutique marketing and comms agency in London. It's always about what can you give the person who's come in to spend an hour of their time with you. And through that kind of training, I became really interested in actually helping people with their decision making, because, some people would arrive and they'd had loads of success, but they really didn't know what to do next. And they were looking for a bit more than 1 hour of advice. And so career coaching became an interest of mine. Trained as a coach, and the kind of coaching that I specialize in is around, people taking that moment. So the time when they might reach out to a recruiter and say, fed up, need a change, get me a new job. And at that point, I think it's really useful to be able to ask that person, what they want to do next. And if they're not sure, then it's a great time to invest a little bit of time in deep diving back into you, not just the job that you've been doing, but you as a person and what's made you tick throughout your life, so that to help you see the patterns, to recognize yourself and what makes you motivated and happy, and help you to feel confident making the next decision about your move.
Yeah, it's so important. And it's quite often I find it's about helping people give themselves permission to give what they want, to go and get what they want. I find a lot of people are still living up to other people's expectations in terms of what they're doing with their career, rather than putting their own values and needs first. Do you come across that as well?
Yeah, completely. And I think it's that, especially when you've had success, because people, who are hardworking and diligent will have huge levels of success, even if they're not actually enjoying their work,
Yeah.
So you can get people who've climbed a ladder, and from the outside, it looks like they've had an amazing career. But then you speak to them and actually it's been really not as rewarding as it might look. They might be paid well and all the rest of it, but actually their job is draining them. And that's what I always feel is a sign of when you should be looking around, is if you're feeling drained by your work regularly. Obviously, everybody has a bad day, but if you're in your life feeling drained outside of work because of the work that you're doing, then it is time to really think carefully about what you could change.
No, 100%. And that is the fast track to burnout, isn't it? If you're working very, very hard in something that doesn't align with you, that is absolutely a slippery slope. It's a really interesting topic, Rachel. I find a lot of people are really struggling to understand what they really want or give themselves that permission. But also from my own perspective, and I think if we'd have been having this conversation 10, maybe even 5 years ago, I would have just thought it was all a load of fluff, this idea of I'm serious, like aligning your purpose and your values with something that you do, right? Honestly, I would have been that cocky, high billing sales director in the corner, laughing at all the fluff that was being told to me. And luckily through no deliberate planning or self-awareness or maturity of my own, I found myself in a position where I actually did align a purpose that I cared about with what I was doing. And the difference is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I've only been full-time doing that for 12 months, but it's impacted every single area of my life in a very positive way. So I don't know how we get this message to cut through. I guess people have got to be ready to receive it. And I just feel very fortunate that I got the opportunity to enjoy that through circumstance, even though I never had the courage or the internal fortitude to take that step. So I love the topic. It's really cool. I'm a big fan of quotes as well. I wondered whether there's any quotes you could share that help guide how you do your work, or that you particularly like, or that you...
Okay, yeah, I've got my quote that I've chosen for you. Is it's a slightly silly one, but it was one that as a youngster I loved it, and it's just one of those. It's a quote from Ferris Bueller, 80s 90s child, and the quote is, "Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you might just miss it." And I just think, like, obviously that is in context of skiving school for the day, but it's actually, I love the concept of, we're always driving forwards, we're driving forwards. And I do feel like often taking a step out, whether it's an hour with a coach, whether it's, going out to see people outside of your industry, but sharing, getting energy and inspiration from outside of your kind of the drive that you have forwards can sometimes be where the real insights lie. And I just love that idea of
Awesome. Absolutely love that. It's a bit like, how when you're in business, everyone says to you, you need to work on the business rather than in the business. I think that a similar kind of thing applies at an individual level, like kind of working on your life rather than just being in your life. But there's also what I think I'm hearing there as well from that, legendary visionary. Is I think what I'm also hearing there is about that, about being in the moment. Is that about being present? And they say that anxiety is driven from thinking too much about the future, and depression is thinking about too much about the past. And so this idea of presenteeism and being present and in the moment, I think Mr. Buller might be onto something.
And I do find I definitely find with because that's something with the coaching, is that I think people often worry that they haven't got like the overall plan. I think there's a tradition of you should have a career plan, and people often feel like they're not doing things properly if they haven't got it mapped out. And for some people that works, and it's motivating having a career plan and knowing what the next step is. But more important is, where are you now, and what do you need to be developing? What do what's getting you fired up now? Because careers do move in all kinds of strange and weird and wonderful directions. And what you're doing now doesn't have to be right for you in 5 years' time. I would personally hope that you are, evolving and moving forwards and exploring new angles, and new things will happen. So it's not necessarily about feeling confident about your 10-year vision. It can be for some people, but more important is, where am I now and what's right in front of me, and getting really clear on that.
Amazing point. Planning's guessing at the moment anyway.
Yeah, exactly. All those plans from the beginning of 2019, 2020.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So amazing point. Some really good value in there. So thank you for sharing that. So one of the things I find with the clients we help who are in job search mode is they struggle to get traction with headhunters and recruiters, or to get engagement with headhunters and recruiters, or to really build good relationships with people in your industry.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew here. Just wanted to very briefly interrupt this podcast episode to tell you a little bit more about our Career Jump Club. So our Career Jump Club was created to help job seekers understand what they want and how to get it, right? So becoming a club member is a great move if you're looking to get the clarity and confidence in order to secure your next role. With the membership, you get a number of different things. So first thing you get is access to our online platform, which has over 30 videos, 50 different templates, workbooks, and it takes you through everything from sort of understanding what you want to how to position your CV and LinkedIn, how to interview, how to close offers and negotiate better salaries, a full end-to-end job search course effectively for senior leaders. So you get that, you get a fortnightly group coaching call, which is with me and with the other members, where we bounce around best practice, share slide decks, share techniques, and share the latest data on what's working for people. And you get to, most importantly, become part of our closed LinkedIn group and our closed community. And in there is where the magic often happens, because you get people referring each other into opportunity, supporting each other, and just sharing. And that's what it's all about. So if you're financially able and you'd like to invest in your job search, head on over to www.careerjump.com, all one word, /club, and you'll find the landing page and come and give it a go. We'll see you in there. Anyway, back to the pod.
So how do you like to be approached, and what advice would you give to people in terms of how to work well with recruiters and headhunters?
Well, it's quite a I guess the way that the recruitment process is, where you might have, 500 applications for a job. you can just be one of hundreds of CVs that the recruiter is looking at. So if you're spot on for that job, then great, you might start to build a relationship with the recruiter at that point when there's a job that you want from them. But actually, the likelihood is very, very slim that you're the right person for that job, and that recruiter could still be a really valuable contact for you. So sometimes a more open, direct message about generally starting a relationship and showing a bit of appreciation for how that relationship with the recruiter could be beneficial to both sides as well, because me as a recruiter, I understand that when somebody's looking for a job, they could be my client when they've got that job, and vice versa. People are people, and you're in different modes of either looking for a job or looking for talent at different times in your life. And I love that kind of transition. I love working with people from both sides. So it's probably thinking about what you can do for the recruiter generally, maybe not right now this instant, but overall, are you going to be an interesting person for the recruiter to know? Do you have a good network? And starting a conversation on quite an open basis. I'm really interested in the space you're working in. I'd love some tips on my CV, for example. Asking them for a bit of help, but also perhaps thinking about how you might be able to help that recruiter with their network, and if you need any recommendations for people for your jobs, because that's what recruiters really need, is people who maybe aren't actively looking at the moment, ins to those people. So thinking about it as a two-way relationship and moving away from that transactional, I want your job, give it to me, because the recruiter will have quite a lot of things that they're looking for that particular job, and although you might have the skills to do it, you might not tick some of the other things that they're looking for.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of transactional behavior in the recruitment world, as we well know, which doesn't help with candidate expectations of the relationship, that's for sure. But I also think sometimes recruiters bear the brunt when actually it's the end client that is insisting on specific things. So the trouble as a recruiter is if the client asks you for something and a particular skill set, of course we're always consulting and trying to help reframe it and trying to help flex the spec, as I was taught in the early days, and all of that good stuff. But ultimately, if somebody retains you to go and find them something and you deliver a shortlist that doesn't match up, then you're probably not going to get the next bit of business. But the candidate fury for that tends to land on the headhunter rather than the end client. Do you know what I mean? You can be shot as a messenger. So I think you made some lovely points there around candidates approaching recruiters, and only recruiters who operate in the right way, because the ones who are transactional, then you should be qualifying them out. Life's too short. So approaching recruiters who operate in the right way, but then that mutually beneficial partnership. I remember some of the candidates I was working with were sending me leads. They were kind of going, I got approached about this job in Switzerland. I can't go to Switzerland, but I'm sure you'd know some people who can. So I just thought I'd let you know that information in case you wanted to go and, try and chase it down yourself and see if you might be able to add some value to the process. All that kind of stuff where you're looking out for each other on a day-to-day basis, finding ways to pay into the emotional bank account and add value and stay front of mind.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
And, asking for something that doesn't take that recruiter a long time, because they're probably busy. And if you're, you've got to bear in mind that they will be, everybody's busy at the moment and it's quite a chaotic world. But something, asking them for a little bit of advice or help, often goes, I get, graduates kind of contacting me wanting a little bit of help on this or that. And, that plays to my kind of, okay, like, you want to help, like if you're a good person.
The natural inclination.
Yeah. So asking for a little bit of help on something which isn't too demanding of their time can also be a good way in as well.
100% agree with that. So interviews, Rachel. Everyone hates interviews, from what I can tell. And I know you do a lot of work, as I said, on both sides of the hiring equation in terms of getting companies to interview better and candidates to potentially perform better at interview. So talk to me about interviews from the candidate perspective. What do people need to be thinking about? How can they get better at them? What just general advice on the whole topic? would be amazing.
Yeah, so I think your CV is designed to, demonstrate that you have the skills to do the job on the kind of top line. And then the interview is around letting the person who you could potentially work for understand how you work. So I think there is the element of you do need to demonstrate those skills, but the key really is how do you do that? Like how have you had that success, and what have you been accountable for, and how have you activated others around you potentially to perform brilliantly, etc. So it's not just the accomplishments and talking through what happened, but it's really thinking about how do I bring my style of working with others and under pressure, in the face of adversity or whatever, thinking about looking at the company you're going to be working for. What are the overall challenges that company is having to face at the moment? And what about the way that you work might fit in with that and actually really help them to drive things forwards or overcome obstacles that are in their path? So just think, like, rather than just thinking about, can I do the job and can I tick everything off, which is on the job spec that I've got to help me prepare, it's also doing your research in the company. Everybody does it, but it's then, so researching the company and where they want to go as best you can, seeing what press coverage there is, etc. Interviews with CEOs and directors, really getting as much of a sense. We're blessed now with so much digital content that you'll often find, you can really get to know people quite well before you meet them as well. Not everybody, but hopefully somebody within the organization is a broadcaster. So yeah, you can pick up some interesting nuggets about what the challenges are and what they're excited about as an organization, perhaps what they're passionate about achieving, and think about how you tie into that and telling your story in a way which really is personal to you, not just like, oh yeah, I've done this before, as have quite a lot of other people. It's about really bringing your values, the way that you treat people, the way that you deal with pressure, all of those sorts of things that people want to try and understand before they hire you. Yeah, bringing that to life through your case studies that you show them.
Fantastic. Be the solution.
Get
that on a t-shirt, everybody. The solution. I think that's a really, really good, really good, strong advice there, born out of experience. So thank you for sharing that today. So what about the common errors, like the fail moments? What kind of things do you see job seekers who are stressed, right? So we do make errors when we're stressed. So from a point of empathy, what kind of errors do you see people making that you think that we should be highlighting and to warn people about?
I would say the one that it's definitely about trying to be yourself as much as possible and selling yourself as yourself, not trying to tell the interviewer what you think they want to hear. I think that's a fairly definite one, and one that's quite hard perhaps when you're really, really wanting a job. Remember that you only want the job if it's right for you. So it's pointless dressing up as something that you think they want you to be. So that's a key one.
That's a really, really important point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a two-way process.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really important point. Because I guess if you do play a character and get the role, then it comes back to your point earlier about it would be pretty easy to slip into burnout in that situation anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're having to be something that you ultimately don't enjoy being, it's not going to be a long-term career move for you. So it's not worth getting the job, really. All of these things, you put a lot of energy into your work, and it's really important that you're putting it into something that you believe in and that you're excited about doing. Yeah, so there's that. Also, I think in interviewing, it's around finding a way to talk about, the things that you are passionate and excited about. And a key preparation is, that little question of why do you want the job? It's huge. And I do find sometimes people don't put enough into that key question, because it's often, it might come at the end of the interview, but that's what it's all about. Like, it's, being able to do the job, great, but like, why do you want the job? People get hired who haven't ticked off all the boxes because of how aligned they are with where the company perhaps wants this person to take the team or whatever, and you can feel the passion and the motivation for that. And so it's a really, not just faking passion and interest for it, but the detail. So it's about showing that you've really thought about it and giving them the detail of why you want to do this job for them, because it's an honor to be able to do this job for them. And it's really showing them how aligned that is to how you work and who you are, because I think that's what people want, to be reassured that they're hiring somebody who is truthful, honest, and motivated to do the job that they need them to do. And it's through showing that kind of detail in your answer that gives them confidence, not just that you're saying what they want you to, what you think they want you to say, but actually you've thought about this and it means something to you.
Yes 100. Interviewers make decisions emotionally but then justify logically, and yet the majority of candidates only deliver to the logical part of the interviewer's assessment. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying, and it's particularly pertinent right now, isn't it? Because if you're out hiring right now, one of your concerns is this person just coming to us because they need a job? Because a lot of people need jobs.
Yeah.
Or are they coming because they really buy into what we're doing, they align with our values, and they're passionate about what we do? So getting that why question sorted is a fantastic tip. Thank you very much for that. For people who've listened to this episode who'd like to reach out, Rachel, what's the best way to get in contact with you if they're hiring or looking for some support?
Just drop me an email. You can, I think my contact details are on my LinkedIn page, so connect with me, drop me a direct message. Those voice messages are really great. It was actually you were the first person to do that too. Those little voice messages.
Yeah,
they're lovely. Yeah, they're really nice.
The response rate to voice messages is way higher than written messages. So we're getting people to do it to build traction with headhunters and clients. So the voice message is good. So it's Rachel Steele, Steele, correct?
Yeah.
And what's the business called?
Blue Forge.
Blue Forge. So follow Rachel online and LinkedIn if you're not already. Give Blue Forge a follow as well. Jump on if you want to engage with her in any kind of way, and follow up with anything that's been discussed in the podcast. And just thanks again for joining us, Rachel. It's really good to spend the time with you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
You've been listening to the Career Jump podcast with Andrew McCaskill. For more resources and information, just head over to the Career Jump website at www.execcareerjump.com to supercharge your job search and start making moves. Let's get to work.